Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a branded Predaplant deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Destroya. And this deck is an awesome deck to be able to make all sorts of really cool fusion monsters and make some absolutely crazy inboards. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name, description of a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. And definitely give Destroy some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Predaplant Ortho Scorpio. This card is a definite 3 of the deck that has an awesome effect that if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a monster from your hand to the graveyard to special summon out any Predaplant monster you want from your deck to your side of the field except another copy of this card, which is a really good effect to be able to combo with a bunch of different Predaplant monsters we play in this deck, like our copies of our Predaplant Darling Cobra. We then play 3 copies of Predaplant Bibelisp. Bibelisp is a definite 3 in this particular build because if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Predaplant monster from your deck to your hand except another copy of this card, which is a great effect to be able to use because we're going to be fusing with this card a lot so we can get searches. We then play just a single copy of Sundew. Sundew is a good 1-of in this particular deck. It's actually a walking polymerization, which is a really good thing about this card. We then play a single copy of Darling Cobra. Darling Cobra is the main target that we're going to be summoning off of Ortho Scorpio, because this card is a once per duel effect that if this card is special summoned by the effect of a Predaplant monster, you can add a polymerization spell card or a fusion spell card from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to search out cards like Branded Fusion. We then play a single copy of Buffalicula. Buffalicula is insane in this deck as a 1-of because it has the ability when it's in the scale that during your main phase you can fusion summon a dark fusion monster from your extract using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, making this card a scale fusion spell, which is just such a powerful thing about this card. We then play a single copy of Triantis. Triantis is just a good 1-of in this particular deck because it has the ability that while this card is in your Pendulum Zone, if you fusion summon a dark fusion monster, you can also use cards in your Pendulum Zone as monsters on the field, as material for fusion summon, which is just a really good effect to be able to use with this card. But you really only need a single copy of this card in the deck. It also has the ability, if this card is sent to the graveyard or added to your extra deck face up because it was used as fusion material, then you can choose a monster on the field and up to the number of monsters that you control and place 1 Predict counter on each one. And if you do, any of those monsters that are level 2 or higher become level 1 as long as they have Predict counters, which is a really good effect. We then play a single copy of Star Sailor. Star Sailor is a really good light target to be able to use for Branded Fusion because it has the ability that if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, then you can send a level 5 or lower plant monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, which is a pretty good effect to be able to send a bunch of different targets to the graveyard of this card's effect. For example, you can actually send Bibelisp to the graveyard to get a search, which is really good. We then play 3 copies of Aluber. Aluber is one of the best normal summons in the entire deck besides our copies of our Ortho Scorpio. This card has the ability, if it's normal or special summon, you can add a branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect to be able to use, and it's an awesome target to use with branded opening. We then play a single copy of Ad Libitum. Ad Libitum is really good because this card is almost like a Monster Reborn, because this card has a great effect that if this card is in your hand or field, is used as a fusion material and is sent to the graveyard or banished, then you can target one of your Despia monsters or a level 8 or higher fusion monster that's banished in your graveyard and special summon it back to your side of the field, which is an awesome effect. We then play a single copy of Despian Tragedy. This card is just a really good search card in the deck. You really only need a single copy of this card, but it's really good in this deck as a 1-of, because if this card is sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, you can add a Despia monster from your deck to your hand. You can also banish this card from the graveyard and then target a branded spell or trap card in the grave and set it back to your field. We then play 2 copies of Blazing Cartesia. This card is an awesome combo piece for the deck, and if you control a Fallen Volbaz or it's in your graveyard, then you can special summon this card from your hand, and it's also a quick effect polymerization, which is just such a good effect about this card. It's a walking polymerization. And this card is so good in the deck as a 2-of, and it's very easy to summon in this deck. You can actually summon it off of Fusion Deployment by revealing Dusk Dragon, which is really cool. It also has the ability that during the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard back to your hand, which is a pretty good effect. We then play a single copy of Guiding Quim. Quim is absolutely insane. This card is exactly what Branded needed, and it makes it so you can actually play Nadir in this deck, because this card is always treated as a Dogmatica and a Despia card. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it from your deck to the graveyard. And if a card leaves the extra deck, except during the damage step, then you can target a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it in your graveyard and special summon it, which is a crazy powerful effect. We then play a single copy of Spriggan's Kit. Spriggan's Kit is a good one-of in this particular deck to use as just a combo piece in this particular build, because if you have a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as a material on the field during the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if it's normal or special summon, you can add to your hand one of your branded spells or traps that's banished in your deck or graveyard, and then place a card from your hand on the bottom of the deck, which is a really good effect. We then play just 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz. I feel like 2 is totally fine in this particular deck. We're already at 44 cards in this particular deck, so this card is just really good to be able to use with Branded Fusion and to go in for a bunch of different plays. We then play a single copy of Albion the Shrouded Dragon. Albion the Shrouded Dragon is great to combo with your copy of Branded Retribution, which is why we're playing this card as a one-of in the build. We're then playing a single copy of Tri-Brigade Mercurier. Mercurier is a great hand trap to be able to use in the deck. It's just a really good combo piece in this particular deck, especially to step into some fusion plays. We then play a single copy of Saunir. Saunir is just really good as a one-of in any branded deck because it can actually use the ability, if this card is sent to the graveyard, then you can send a branded monster or a branded spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard. You can actually send a Bysteel monster or a branded spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard, which is a really good effect to be able to use on this card. We then play a single copy of the Bysteel Lubellion. Lubellion's just a good one-of in this particular deck, as it helps you get to your copy of Saunir by sending this card to the graveyard, and it also has the ability that when this card is on your side of the field during your main phase, you can place a branded continuous spell or trap card from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone, which is a great effect. This card can also summon itself back from the graveyard by tributing a level 6 or higher Dark Dragon monster that you control, so it's very easy to put on your side of the field. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start off with a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is really good in this deck as a one-of to be able to send the exact monster you need to the graveyard when you need it. We then play a single copy of Instant Fusion. We play an awesome Predaplant monster in the X deck that we can actually summon out with this card. We then play a single copy of Branded in Red. Branded in Red is great in this deck to be able to use because it lets you target a Despia monster or Fallen of Albaz in your graveyard, add it back to your hand, and then you can fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your X deck by banishing the fusion materials listed on it from your hand or field. You're usually summoning out Guardian Chimera off this card's effect. We then play a single copy of Branded Lost. This card gives you a lot of protection and a lot of searches, which is really cool because if you fusion summon a fusion monster, it has the ability to add a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand, which is absolutely insane the amount of cards you can actually search off this card. We then play 3 copies of Nadir. Nadir is awesome in the deck because before you just activate a copy of Branded Fusion. If it got hit by an Ash, you usually just ended your turn or went in for your copies of your Predaplant monsters and went in for combos with them. But with Nadir, this card actually gives you a lot of versatility in this deck because of our new copy of our Despia Synchro monster we're playing in the extra deck. This card gets you to your copy of Guiding Quim, which is absolutely amazing, and it's very easy to use in the deck because it has the ability to send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, which is always going to be that Despia Synchro monster, and it has the ability to add a Dogmatica monster or a Fallen of Albaz from your deck or graveyard to your hand that has attack less than or equal to the sent monsters in the graveyard. Also, for the rest of the time this card resolves, you cannot special monsters from the extract, but that's totally fine because we can easily get to cards to be able to use during our opponent's turn. We then play 3 copies of Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment is really good because we have a bunch of targets in the deck to be able to use with this card, like Blazing Cartesia or Fallen of Albaz, which is really good. We then play 3 copies of Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is the most powerful card in the entire deck. This card lets you fusion summon by using cards from the deck, and is a definite 3-of in the build to help you fusion summon into some extremely powerful monsters. We then play 3 copies of Branded Opening. Branded Opening is insane in this deck because it discards a card and then take a Despia monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it in defense position to your side of the field, which is a really insane effect. And if a fusion monster you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can actually banish this card from your graveyard instead, which is a really good effect to be able to use to give you a little bit of added protection. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 2 traps, and that's going to be a single copy of Predaplant and a single copy of Branded Retribution. These are really good in the deck as 1 each, and this card is really good in the deck. Your Predaplanting is awesome because it lets you send a Predaplant monster from your deck to the graveyard and then place Preda counters, 1 Preda counter on each face-up monster on the field, and if you do, any of those monsters that are level 2 or higher become level 1 as long as they have Preda counters on it, which can really mess up your opponent's plays, and combo with your copy of Dragos Tapalia is absolutely insane. And if you fusion summon a dark monster while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can manage this card from the graveyard, target 1 card on the field, and destroy it, which is a really good effect. Then your copy of Branded Retribution is really good to combo with your copy of Albion, because this card is just really insane, because it has the ability you can banish this card from the graveyard, and then target a branded spell or trap card in the graveyard, except another copy of this card, and add it to your hand, so you can actually grab back extremely powerful cards, like your copies of Branded Fusion. So, that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with a single copy of Albion the Sacred Fire Dragon. This is an awesome card that we just got out of Cyberstorm Access. This card is pretty much Branded Expulsion 2.0, but there's some really good applications in this deck to be able to use this card to bring back monsters to your side of the field. I absolutely love this card as a 1-of in the deck because it gives you so many different plays. We have a lot of targets for this deck to be able to make with a light spellcast type monster. It cannot be used as fusion material, and your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, and you can only use each of the following effects as card once per turn. That during your opponent's turn, quick effect, then you can target 2 monsters in any graveyards and special summon both monsters, 1 to each field. And if this card is in your graveyard, you contribute 4 monsters, and then the 2 monsters in the extra monster zone and 2 monsters in the centralmost monster zones, and if you do, special summon out this card, which is a pretty insane effect to be able to use. We then play 2 copies of Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade is just an absolutely crazy powerful boss monster to be able to make in this deck, and one of the best cards to be able to make in this particular extra deck. We're then playing 2 copies of Albion the Branded Dragon. This card is walking Miracle Fusion because you can banish materials to be able to fusion summon into some really powerful cards. We then play a single copy of Lubellion. Lubellion's really good at helping you fusion summon by shuffling materials back, and this card is really good in the deck as a 1-of. We then play a single copy of the Dusk Dragon. Dusk Dragon is really good to be able to use with a fusion deployment to be able to summon out your copy of Cartesia from the deck, and this card is just a really good combo piece in this particular build. We then play a single copy of Ridbrom. Ridbrom is insane and very easy to summon to your side of the field by using Fallen Volbaz and either Mercurier or Kit to be able to make this card. And this card has the ability that when a fusion, synchro, exi, or link monster effect is activated, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, return 1 monster from the field back to the hand, which is a really insane effect. And then during your opponent's turn, when this card is in the graveyard, quick effect, you can target a Fallen Volbaz in your graveyard, special summon either that monster or this card and banish the other, which is a really insane effect. We then play a single copy of Masquerade. Every time your opponent breathes, they're going to take 600 points of damage, which is really cool because while you control this fusion summon card, your opponent must pay 600 life points to activate cards and effects, which is really insane in time. We then play a single copy of Quiritis. Quiritis is really good because it drops everything besides your fusion monsters down to 0 attack points, except level 8 or higher fusion monsters, which is really good for us because it helps us OTK our opponent. We then play a single copy of Starving Venom Preda Power Fusion Dragon. This card is absolutely massive at 3,600 attack points, and this card is absolutely crazy because once per turn, when a card effect is activated, quick effect, you contribute 1 monster on either field with a Preda counter on it, and if you do, negate the activation. We distribute Preda counters a lot in this deck, so this card can contribute your opponent's monsters to actually stop their own effects, which is really good for this deck. And this card is pretty easy to actually summon to your side of the field, and it's really really, really good. We then play a single copy of Dracostapelia. Dracostapelia actually gives out Predacounters, which is really good, and adds a bonus effect to monsters that have Predacounters on it, because it has the ability once return, quick effect, you can try to face up monster your opponent controls and place a Predacounter on it. And it becomes a level 1 if it's a level 2 or higher, as long as it has a Predacounter on it. You negate the activated effects of your opponent's monsters that have Predacounters on it, which is really good because it puts negates on every single monster that has a Predacounter on it. We then play a single copy of the Predaplant level 5. This is a copy of a card that we're always going to be summoning off of Instant Fusion. And has the ability, if this card is Fusion Summoned, which Instant Fusion does, you can add a Predaplant monster or a Spell or Trap from your deck, graveyard, or face from your extra deck back to your hand, which is a pretty good effect. It also has the ability that you can target one monster that your opponent controls with a Predacounter on it, or one monster that you control and tribute it, and if you do, special summon a Predaplant monster from your deck, which is a pretty good effect. We then play a single copy of Guardian Chimera. You're always summoning this card off of Branded in Red, and it's really good to be able to pop cards on the field and draw cards off this card. We're then playing our single copy of our Despian Lulu. Despian Lulu is really good because we're always going to send this card to the graveyard off of our copy of Nadir, and has an insane effect that if it's in the graveyard, that basically this card has the ability that during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, then you can special summon one light spellcaster monster from your hand or deck whose attack equals its own defense, which can be your copy of Quim or your copy of Blazing Cartesia, which is absolutely crazy that you can put cards like Blazing Cartesia on the field, and it's a quick effect polymerization. So you can actually fuse during your opponent's turn if you put Blazing Cartesia on the field, which is really insane. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is absolutely insane. I'm really glad that Destroya actually suggested this because this deck is super fun with all the new support out of Cyberstorm Access, giving us all sorts of new plays and really awesome ones at that. So anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.